I didn't really want a gender reveal party, but my husband's family made a big deal about it, so I agreed. My mother-in-law was convinced I knew the gender and insisted I tell her. I totally didn't, and I told her that fact. She wore me down after a month of bothering me about it. She begged me and promised that she wouldn't tell anyone. This was all in text. I told her it was a girl. It was a 50-50 chance, and it would get her off my back. Well, she lied. 2 months later, my husband and I threw a baby gender reveal party, and I invited my in-laws and my family. There was a really awkward silence when we cut the cake to reveal a blue inside. She had told literally all of the guests from her side of the family so that they could bring appropriate gifts. My friends and family quickly gathered around to congratulate us on our son. She came over and hissed at me that I made her look stupid. I reminded her that she had promised not to tell anyone. She said she had never promised, so I showed her our text conversations. Some of the family were right there when I did that, so they heard her admit that she'd lied and had never intended to keep that promise. She said that it was an idiot move and that I only did it to embarrass her. I again reminded her that I had repeatedly told her that I didn't know the gender. My husband wants me to apologize to keep the peace. I probably will, but I don't think I was an idiot like she seems to think. Am I the idiot for lying to my mother-in-law about the gender of our baby after she promised to keep it a secret? Not the idiot. Sorry, you couldn't keep a secret and showed your big liar pants on fire pants to your family. You big fibber is about the only apology I'd be willing to give. Tell her she'll be finding out things through social media. Oh, that's a slow burn right there. Do it in public. And there's no real comeback that mother-in-law can give that will let her save face, which is exactly how it should be. She embarrassed herself. I actually hate conflict and usually apologize to keep the peace, but it's a bad strategy long term. It sets a precedent where the mother-in-law and all those like her can steamroll her way through every event, safe in the knowledge that she won't be called out on it. Exactly. And I'm sick of people being told they should apologize when they did nothing wrong to keep the peace. Being forced to appease bullies or people who break boundaries is harmful. Submerging yourself to please others is harmful. Not having the person who did wrong held to account is harmful. Also sets a precedent, probably established throughout childhood, for the husband to appease mommy instead of sticking up for his wife. This isn't even a matter of difference of opinion or anything. OP's 100% objectively in the right here. Do not apologize to keep the peace. Your husband needs to get on the same page about her behavior ASAP, because this is just the first of many times she'll try to trample your boundaries regarding your child. Yep, sit your husband down and tell him it's time to start acting like a husband and a father. She played a stupid game and won a stupid prize, so now she plays the victim. Tell her you'll be ready to accept her apology for both hounding you and lying about not sharing the information with anyone when she's ready to give it. However, this is amazing. Maybe just because I hate gender reveals, but this just made me laugh so hard. A true lesson for your mother-in-law to keep her mouth shut. People should buy mostly gender-neutral stuff for babies anyway. To be honest, they're just weird little gremlins at first. Basically, my sister-in-law asked to take my and my husband's kids for the long weekend because it was her daughter's birthday. We said that was fine, so she dropped the kids off on Friday and returned on Monday at 9 a.m. to grab them. I called periodically throughout the day to check in on them and was never told anything was out of the ordinary. Well, we got there to pick up the kids at 9 a.m., and our two sons were still sleeping, which is not normal. They're super early risers and always have been, even when going to bed late. Sister-in-law makes a comment, "Oh, it's probably because of the cough syrup." I asked what she meant, and she told me that apparently she had given both of my sons an entire cap full of cough syrup the night before because they weren't feeling well, and started to develop a slight cough. My youngest, young grammar school age, has asthma and had his inhaler with him. Not only that, but this entire capful of cough syrup she gave them was Adults Extra Strength Delsum PM. My sons are younger and a tween. I absolutely lost my crap. I told my husband to get the kids packed up immediately and went off on my sister-in-law for intentionally giving my sons a very high dose of Adult Extra Strength cough syrup when she knows we don't even use cough syrup. My mother's a doctor and has told me doctors advise against it due to it being a cough suppressor and being unable to push out the phlegm, which can lead to pneumonia. Not only that, but she didn't even tell me before giving it. So I said she'd never see my kids again, and we left. Of course, she was crying when we took off. I'm being told by multiple people that I overreacted because my boys are fine. I fail to see how that makes this better. Am I the idiot? Edit. It's been made clear multiple times that we don't give our kids cough syrup. She's argued with us several times because she gives her kid every medication known to man, and we don't. She knew what she was doing and we wouldn't be okay with it. She made comments of, "They're perfectly fine. I told you it was safe," BS, when I was flipping out on her. Zero remorse. I do want to clear up a bit of confusion here on dosage. An entire capful of this adult strength Delsum is 30 milliliters. That means she gave a dosage 4 times too high in an adult strength medication. She didn't say anything to you about their developing coughs and dosed them with full strength adult cough syrup? She dosed your kids so they'd sleep. I'd never be in the same room as her again. You are not the idiot. I bet they weren't even developing a cough. Maybe because I come from a crappy family, but I'm guessing either she wanted to sleep in that day and the 2 boys had already proven to be early risers all weekend, or she was proving her point that cough syrup was totally harmless. I lean toward the former, but I've known people to do the latter, so it's a toss-up for me. I wonder how often she gives that to her own kid. Doesn't matter who she is to you, she absolutely cannot be trusted with children. This is in no way negotiable. She may promise never to do it again, but there are many decisions to make when caring for children. Unfortunately, you can't trust her to make the most obvious safety calls, so you must make the safety call to protect your kids from incompetent care. Honestly, I would call your doctor for advice, even if the kids seem fine right now. And I'd also be tempted to talk to the doctor about your worries for your niece. My daughter Cameron is very artistic. Cam likes doodling and using certain online animation apps. Still, her preferred way to express herself is through street art, such as graffiti. I found an art class that specializes in graffiti for Cameron, as well as to get her connected with specific zones where graffiti's allowed. She's staying out of trouble and it makes her happy, so I don't see any issue with it, and I encourage her hobby. Some context about my sister-in-law, Sydney, is that she has 2 daughters. My nieces Eden and Ava, and her husband Benjamin is not involved with the girls at all. My brother-in-law is the kind of guy who brags about how he's such a man because he's never changed any diapers or attended parent-teacher meetings, and Sydney does it all. He's seemingly oblivious that this doesn't impress nor earn him respect from other fathers his age. Sydney constantly excuses Benjamin's lack of involvement with Eden and Ava. Things along the lines of how it's her responsibility as the mother, or that since he makes more money, it's not his responsibility to step up as their father. Sydney seems to have internalized misogyny herself. I bring all that up because Sydney has become very vocal about her disapproval of Cam's graffiti hobby, and many of her complaints seem misogynistic. Things like how Cameron's a young teen, becoming a young woman, and must start acting like it, and that I should move her into classes for a more appropriate, feminine form of art like watercolors. I told Sydney that unless Cam wanted to, I would not change her art class or discourage her graffiti. She's staying out of trouble, and it makes her happy, and I see no issue with her hobby. Sydney called me irresponsible and said to think about the potential partners Cam would attract with a hobby like graffiti. She then said that if Cameron keeps doing graffiti, she'll eventually hang around a bad crowd and get into drugs. I told Sydney that she doesn't have the room to criticize the way I support Cam's passions when her own husband is barely involved with Eden and Ava. Sydney and I got into an argument where I admittedly was yelling back at her. My wife had us de-escalate, told Sydney off, and we left. Once we got home and things cooled off, my wife explained that she didn't regret telling Sydney off over the substances comment, but throwing Benjamin's lack of involvement in Sydney's face was just a low blow on my end, and that two wrongs don't make a right, because I could have addressed Sydney's comment without bringing the situation with Benjamin into it. I do see my wife's side and realize that bringing up Benjamin was a low blow. However, the two friends I brought it up to said that Sydney had it coming and that, in a way, I helped Sydney because she needed to look at herself and her family dynamics in the mirror. Now I'm conflicted. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Watercolors and suitably feminine art? Bringing Benjamin into it was a perfectly equal blow. She's taking a shot at you for supporting your daughter as her father, while the father of her children doesn't do a thing to support his own children, aside from throwing money at them. I disagree. You should have said, "Thank you for caring about my daughter. I'm happy for her to do this, and I'm confident that it's safe. I don't think it'll expose her to danger. I'm glad we can have these open chats about our kids, because I've been concerned for a while about the impact that your husband's neglect of Eden and Ava might have on them. I'm worried that they don't have a strong bond with him, and that in the future, they might exhibit some worrying attention-seeking behaviors from the males in their lives. Many girls with daddy issues seek the wrong kind of attention. She needs to worry about the effects her husband will have on their daughters. I suspect, had it gone down that way, she may have STFU. I doubt Benjamin could even name one of his daughter's hobbies. The differences in how Cameron and her cousins will grow up into adults will be heartbreaking. Sydney needed a slap off her pedestal. It's always entertaining when people don't look at their own life and try to control others. Sydney needs to learn some hard truths if she's going to have any hope of compensating for Benjamin's disinterest in raising even vaguely well-rounded daughters. My ex and I have two sons that are pre-tween and a little younger. We split the time 50-50. They're with me 2 weeks a month, then with her the other 2. A couple of years ago, she began dating this guy, Saul, and they married a few months back. I knew Saul was a vegetarian, and my ex also became one about a year into dating him. Still, she would cook meat for the boys. Once Saul moved in after the wedding, he said he felt uncomfortable with meat in the house. I didn't see much issue with this at first. In their home, they can do as they please. All I care about are my boys being fed and remaining healthy, which they are. Then my ex became upset that our sons are not following a vegetarian diet. At her house, they have no choice, really, but my wife and I serve a variety of foods. There's no meat every night, but at least 3 to 4 times a week, you can guarantee a dish will include it. If the boys stated they wanted to become vegetarians, I would respect that and find a way to make sure that they were maintaining a healthy diet. However, neither of them wants to be. I've heard that while at my ex's, they complain that they can't eat meat. Even if they go out, my ex and Saul will only let them order vegetarian items. In the beginning, I tried to explain that different houses have different rules, but eventually let them vent. I also told my ex that this is her circus to handle because she and Saul are making the rule. Last week was my birthday, so my wife took me and the boys to my favorite steakhouse. They went back to their mom's on Sunday afternoon. She sent me this long rant text stating that the boys were requesting burgers, and when she said no, they said, "But Dad let us have steak last week." She asked that I stop serving meat in my house and let them order it at restaurants. I said I wouldn't do that unless they told me they wanted to follow a vegetarian diet. She claims that I'm making her job harder. When I told her she was making her job harder, she got mad and called me an idiot. The people I've spoken to are split. All agree that I should be able to feed my kids whatever they want, within reason, but some feel like I should try to make my ex's life easier. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. And no, do not think of making your ex's life easier. Think instead of the children. They don't want to be vegetarians, and there's no good reason for you to force it on them. If the ex wants arbitrary rules, you've let her have them. There's no way you have to descend to her level when the kids are with you. I love how because his ex married a vegetarian, she assumes that not only her kids have to be, but her ex's family as well? It's absolutely wackadoo. The entitlement of people who just assume the world will revolve around them is great, and that's a bad sign. The dude that moved in shouldn't get to dictate the entire house. Your ex is an idiot. Your ex made her own life more difficult. This has nothing to do with you. Parent in your box and let your ex parent in their box. Feed the kids what you feed them when they're with you. If they grow up and start cooking for themselves, you can absolutely offer to buy groceries that they can use to cook vegetarian meals if it's important to them to eat vegetarian meals when they're with you. Your wife has no leg to stand on regarding what you feed them, just as you'd have no leg to stand on regarding how many pillows they have in their beds at her house, or what kind of shampoo they use when they're with their mom. I, male 45, and my daughter, teen, live with my parents. Basically, my daughter and I are going through a tough time right now. My wife, her mom, passed away 2 months ago. Our lease for our apartment recently ended, so I figured we could take some time to find a new place. My daughter has a pink bunny stuffed animal her mom and I got when we found out she was a girl. She's always had some attachment to this stuffed animal, to the point she needs it to sleep. Since her mom passed, though, she's extra emotional and needs it slightly more, which is completely understandable. It brings her comfort. Well, when I was at work, my daughter was home, and my mom asked her to take out the trash multiple times. Well, my daughter didn't listen, and my mom was about to take her phone away when my daughter said she didn't care. Well, my mom noticed her attachment to her stuffed bunny recently and decided to take that away with her phone. Well, it led to my daughter having a panic attack. She was very upset and anxious when I came home. I tried asking her what was wrong, but she wouldn't talk to me. Finally, when I asked my mom, she told me. I told her to give me the stuffed animal. I gave it to my daughter, and after a little bit, she calmed down enough and fell asleep. Now, usually, I would trust my mom to punish my daughter when I'm not there. What she did wasn't right, but my mom's punishment wasn't right either. I told her this, and she got mad, saying my daughter's a teen and shouldn't have that type of attachment to the stuffed animal. And I'm just setting her up for failure. I can't stop thinking about that. So, am I the idiot? Also, my daughter and I are both in therapy now. So far, my daughter likes her therapist. Not the idiot. I'm 61. I have a little lamb my favorite aunt gave me when I was 5. She's gone. It's still here. It's such an important reminder of someone who truly loved me. It's the only thing I have left from my childhood. It has soaked up my tears many times as a child and an adult, almost like it was her shoulder. Your mother needs to learn the difference between removing a luxury and taking away a treasure of the heart. Hug your kid for us, okay? That sums it up perfectly. Her mom died 2 months ago. The daughter's not extra emotional. She's grieving. Her whole life collapsed, and your mother's treating it as if it was nothing. So that bunny's not just a bunny, but for your daughter, it represents her last link to her mother. The change in both your lives is massive, and your mother didn't help here. My folks would have called this sticking your finger in someone's wound. It's cruel, nothing less. I might say your mother could use a cardiologist to check if she actually has a heart. What your mom did was awful. You need to protect your daughter by getting her out of that space and into a place where she feels safe. I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry to inform you that you don't have the time to find a new place you thought you did. Your daughter needs to feel safe in her own space so she can cope better now more than ever. Hurry up and move.